Folks, we're going from 2018 to 2025 iCode, and there is a lot that goes into that. Cost going up, time going up, and headache way up. Even in the last few years, we have gone from loose regulation to tight regulation, and many of owners and contractors alike are caught surprised. And the surprise is often a bill of an additional $10,000 to $20,000, and that's not a joke. So number one, online Eclipse applications. If you do not understand regulation, do not attempt to do it. It will delay your project a minimum of 6 months because using Eclipse requires a deep understanding of regulations and what code requirements are triggered based on your project scope and location. Number two, depth of excavation. If you're digging below the current foundation or breaking ground for new construction, this has a significant impact on the requirements for your permit application. Many of times, it can add 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 prerequisite approvals from other departments before you're even authorized to begin the application with the Department of Licenses and Inspections. Thus, adding to costs, creating more delays, and pushing the timeline start back by at least 6 months. Number three, energy conservation. There are certifications that will be required for a permit when you're preparing the application for new construction, additions, and more significant alterations to an existing building envelope or new construction. So tell your architect ahead of time to get those documents prepared because there are certain calculations that they need to do on their end in order to produce the report. Number four, a zoning permit. There are several different types of zoning permits, and understanding what type of zoning permit you need is an entirely separate conversation. For the purposes of this, if you're going straight to a building permit and you're not taking into account the occupancy or any change in square footage from the existing plans, you're going to be set back by a minimum of 3 months right off the bat. Number five, structural details. This is an area of regulation that has, I would say, the most significant change in the last 2 to 3 years. The city has updated their special inspections documentation paperwork, requiring additional schedules for monitoring, for engineering, and also additional reports. Part of this is the enforcement of protection of adjacent properties, which again is an entirely separate conversation. Knowing if there's structural, which if you're replacing a joist line, that would be considered structural. And you need to make sure that your engineer and your architect are in communication because there are different plan sets on both ends that will be needed to get a permit for structural work. Number six, exterior wall rating and openings. If you're widening a door, watch out. This is considered an exterior wall, and there are additional regulations that you need that will need to be done ahead of time in order to keep the permit application on track. Number seven, sprinkler trade-offs. What they really mean is fire suppression systems. The city of Philadelphia takes fire safety incredibly serious. There's been a lot of, over the years, recently in the news, and actually as of 2021, the city of Philadelphia implemented the annual life safety certifications, which pre-pandemic did not exist. Now buildings are required to get their system certified by a licensed electrician or a licensed plumber or a licensed fire suppressionist. Working with an experienced team, in addition to an experienced expediter, can help you identify these code sections and work out the technicals to get you around some of these costly requirements, saving you thousands, if not millions of dollars. This also dips into utility work, things underground, and lines that are connected to the water main that runs underground the entire city of Philadelphia. Number 8, accessible route. The accessible route is supported by the ADA, American Disability Act, and you are required as a commercial business owner to create enough space for someone who is handicapped to be able to peruse your store. This also applies with the entrances and the exits, and something that a lot of people miss when they're changing the occupancy from, say, retail to office. Number 9, number of exits. In other words, means of egress. It's the escape route. You have to have enough exits in a building for someone to be able to safely get out in the event of an emergency. If you're an architect, generally you understand this, but in Philadelphia, if you're doing work on a portion of the building, you have to have adequate means of egress, escape routes for the people in the building in the event of emergency. This is done and enforced during the plan review process, and something that the architect or the engineer would have to have on the plans right from the beginning. This is a requirement that often gets missed in the design process when alterations are being performed on a certain part or a portion of the building and not the entire building envelope itself, thus resulting in an average of 20 business days of delay, which can quickly get up to about 6 months. There are minimums that you need on each floor, and this could potentially change next year as Philadelphia adopts 2025 I-code versus 2018 IBC. Number 10, code analysis is the last but most vital element of this entire process. You have to understand the regulations of the applications that you're applying for based on occupancy, location, and scope of work. There are additional rules that are subject to reviewer that will also be enforced, and there are also going to be inspector relationships and contractor relationships that you will need to manage every step of the way. So don't find out the hard way. Hire a knowledgeable expediter or compliance management team for all of your paperwork. Documentation is critical, and you don't want a paperwork holdup to be the reason the contractors can't get started on their work.